Hey you guys, today for lesson 7-5 we are going to be doing dividing a whole number by a decimal. And as you can always see here at the bottom is the Common Core standard that you will be focused on for today's lesson and the one you will be assessed on. A lot of you I've heard make the comment of, decimals are stupid, I don't understand why we need them. I think this comic kind of sums up the reason why we need decimals and why they're so important in our everyday life. Often I have students asking me, how can you divide a whole number by a decimal? It doesn't seem like it's something that could happen. And it's really not a hard skill to do. Once again, it's math, it's about following steps. But it comes down to really one skill, which I believe is the key for this, and that is estimating. And estimating is something we have spent a lot of time practicing and doing. So it's something that you should be good at. First things first, let's take a look at our problem and let's break it out, and then let's go through the steps on how to divide a whole number by a decimal. A band was deciding how many songs could fit into a CD. They bought blank 80-minute long CDs for recording their songs. If their average song is 3 2/10 minutes long, how many songs can fit on each CD? First things first, I need to find out, what is it that I need to solve? What is it this problem is asking me to do? What do I need to find out? Take a minute, go back to the word problem, and see if you can determine what it is that we need to find out from this word problem. I hope you're one of the people that said how many songs can fit onto each CD or something similar to that. Good deal. Let's go on to the second thing I need to know. And this is when I'm going to go back to my equation or my word problem, and I'm going to start pulling information to help me build any math equation. An equation is a problem without an answer that will help me solve what it is that you need to find out. So let's go back to the word problem and take a look and see if we can build an equation. Look for information that will help us build that equation. What information do I have available to help me build an equation to solve the problem? Well, I know that the CDs they are going to buy are 80 minutes long, and I know that their average song length is 3 2/10 minutes long. The information's right here. They bought blank 80-minute long CDs. Their average song is 3 2/10 minutes long. So that's my information. Now I need to build an equation. I need to break this out into a problem. What would that look like? And then here you go. This is what it looks like. Remember, when you're building an equation, your larger number always goes on the inside, and then your smaller number on the outside. Now, this is going to be kind of a self-explanatory answer based on the problem that I have, but what operation would you use to solve this problem? I hope you said division, considering that it's a division problem. So let's now go through the steps in order to understand how to solve this problem and how to understand and to solve problems when you are dividing a whole number by a decimal. At the very beginning of the video, I said that there was one important skill that you were going to need to be very good at in order to be great at this skill. Do you remember what that was? I said it was something that you practice a lot in this class. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to estimate. The reason why I want to estimate is it's allowing me to check my answer in the very beginning. So I know where I'm trying to go, the goal I'm trying to reach. So I'm going to estimate 3 2/10 and 80, both of those numbers. Okay, I'm going to round them so I can make an estimation based on what I feel the answer may be, or what the answer may be close to. So let's first go ahead and let's round these two numbers. Let's start with 3 2/10. Well, I know that I'm going to round 3 2/10 down to 3 because, again, it's based on my rules of rounding. I'm looking to round this number. So I look to my right. If this number is 5 or greater, I'm going to round this number up. But since it's less than 5, I'm just going to leave this the same and then turn that into a 0, which is just going to leave it to be rounded to 3. Think of this as money if it's confusing. If you had $3.20 and somebody said, about how much money do you have in your pocket? You can say, well, I have about $3 in my pocket. You wouldn't say, I have $3.20 in your pocket. It doesn't make sense. Now let's go ahead and round this number. I'm looking at the number 80. Now I know what you're thinking. You're looking at the number 80 and you're like, but Mr. S, that number is already rounded. It is at 80. It's true. But if I'm looking to do a little bit of mental math in my head based on this equation so far, I know that I cannot divide 80 into 3. It doesn't divide evenly. If I eliminated the 0 on this 80, right? And you were just dividing 8 divided by 3, does that divide equally? No, it doesn't. That's why I need to round the 80. So I'm going to round it to a compatible number. What number does 3 go into evenly? If I had to round that 8 up to or down to a number, what would be the closest and the most compatible, the one that works the best with it? It would be 90. So I'm going to round this number to 90. Now I'm sure some people are thinking, well, why didn't you round it down to 60? Because I would be rounding it down too far. 60 is 20 digits away from 80, whereas 90 is only 10 digits away. It's closer. So that's why I rounded up instead of down. Now that I have these two numbers rounded, I'm just going to do a little bit of mental math. What's 90 divided by 3? Well, I know if I eliminate the 0, I know that 9 divided by 3 is 3. And then all I have to do is just add on that 0. So my answer is 90 divided by 3 is 30. Now that I have that piece of information, let's go on to step number 2. All right, so let's go on to step number 2, which is using the power of 10 to help us solve the original equation. I know what the original equation is. The original equation, and I'll write it down for you, was 80 divided by 3 and 2/10. I know in step 1 I estimated my answer, which was 90 divided by 3 after I rounded these numbers, and that gave me an answer of 30. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the powers of 10 to help me change these numbers so I can divide them. So what I'm going to do is I am going to use a power of 10 to multiply these numbers. I am going to take 3 and 2/10 and I'm going to multiply it by 10 to the first power, which is just 10. Okay? So if I take 3 and 2/10 and I multiply it by 10 to the first power, that's going to give me an answer of 32. To figure that out, all you have to do is just write the equation. Multiply 3 and 2/10 times 10, and then solve. And you'll see that you'll get the answer of 10. Now I have to do the same thing, and I have to multiply 80 by 10 to the first power. So let's do that. 80 times 10 to the first power. And that's basically the same thing as saying 80 times 10. 80 times 10 is 800. So step number 2 is using the powers of 10 to multiply your divisor and your dividend right there. Multiply both numbers by 10 to the first power or by just 10, because it's the same thing, and then come up with your answers, 32 and 800. Step 3 is our final and funnest step yet, and that is to just divide. What you're going to do is you're going to take your answers from step 2 and turn them into a problem. So let's do that. I'm going to build my house. Look at my pretty house. It's in red. I'm going to put in 800 in the middle or under the house. Give it a roof. Then on the outside is my divisor, which is 32. And now I go ahead and I divide, just as normal. So, first thing I'm going to do is, how many times does 32 go into 8? Well, it doesn't. Since 8 is smaller than my divisor, I have to move on to the next number. So then I ask, how many times does 32 go into 80? Well, I can do all the math off to the side, but I'm going to do a little estimating in my head because I know that 30 times 2 is 60. So I know that 32 times 2 would be 64. So I know that will work. And I know if I went 32 times 3 wouldn't work because if I estimate again, 30 times 3 is 90, and that's over 80. So I know the answer is 2. So I'm going to put my 2 directly over my 0, and then I'm going to multiply. 32, 2 times 32 is, as I said it before, 64. And then I go ahead and I subtract. 10 minus 4 is 6, and then 8 minus 7 is 1. I do apologize for my subtraction. I know you do it differently. Please bear with me because you know I cannot subtract that way. I bring down my 0. And now, how many times does 32 go into 160? Well, I did a little math off to the side here at my desk, and I know it goes into 160 5 times. So I'm going to place that 5 directly over my 0, and now I'm going to multiply. 5 times 32 is 160. If I subtract, my answer is 0. So my final answer is 25. So at the end, this band or this musician, they can fit 25 songs on each CD. And that's how easy it is. So let's do a really quick recap on the steps that you need to follow in order to divide a whole number by a decimal. And remember, there are 3 simple steps that you need to take. Step number 1. Step number 1 is to estimate. Make sure you round both of your numbers, your divisor and your dividend. You round them and then estimate what the answer will be ahead of time. Once you have completed estimating your answer, you go on to step number 2. Then step number 2 is you want to multiply the divisor and the dividend by the same power of 10, just like I did when I multiplied 3 2/10 by 10 and then 80 by 10. That's what you need to do. And then step number 3 is our last and final step, which is to divide. Once you're done, then you're done. So there are 3 steps in order to solve a problem like this, dividing a whole number by a decimal. Step number 1 is to estimate. Step number 2 is to multiply the divisor and the dividend by the same power of 10. And then step 3 is to divide. Good luck, you guys, on your activities today.